Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and wait until you hear this clip. This is Linda P. Jones with Brad Combs, and you got to hear this clip. Just to put, before you listen to it, just a little reminder that on Link2's platform, they have Ripple private equity. Wait till you hear this. Here we go. I'm playing the whole 4 minutes.
All right, so let's do a back of the envelope calculation for Ripple stock. So according to Link2, at $35 a share, which is approximately, it's slightly under that at 34 today on the Link2 website, that is a $5.7 billion valuation for Ripple stock. Now, we all know that shares have been bought back at $15 billion in the past. So to be at 5.7 billion is quite a bit lower than where it's been. We also know that Ripple has 42 billion XRP in escrow. I Googled that and found that current number. At 50 cents, that makes the XRP worth $21 billion, which is crazy because that's 4 times what Ripple is valued at right now. So this is very out of whack. And you can see that Ripple's valuation is too low. Now, let's look at Coinbase, which was another IPO that was done that was very successful. And we heard that Link2 made a 10x on the value of Coinbase. That went public. It had an $86 billion valuation. It opened at $250 a share, went up to $429 a share, and closed at $328 a share on its IPO. So if Ripple were to be valued at the same value that Coinbase was, 86 billion, and it has 21 billion in XRP, that would put the total together at 107 billion, which is about 20 times what Ripple is selling for right now.
Did she just say 107 billion?
86 billion. And it has 21 billion in XRP, that would put the total together at 107 billion, which is about 20 times what Ripple is selling for right now.
What Ripple is selling for right now, I don't think I can tell you that. It is on the Link2 platform. I can tell you 20 times is $680. Oh my God.
So whatever shares you have worth of Ripple, you can easily make a case that it's worth 20 times the current value that you have right now, which is astounding. But there's more. So let's say that the lawsuit is over soon, and let's say that XRP goes back to approximately its old high around 359. That puts its escrow at $150 billion valuation. Now you can't have XRP worth 150 billion and Ripple stock worth less. That doesn't make any sense. And there's so many companies today that have high valuations. We have Nvidia, which just crossed 1 trillion. We have Apple at 3 trillion. We have Amazon at 2 trillion. We have world-class companies, which I think Ripple fits in with some of those world-class companies. Now, it's not as old as those companies, and we have to look at what is their revenue stream, because that's ultimately how you value a company, is based on its revenue. And I don't have current revenue numbers for Ripple, but if we could get that information, that would be really helpful. But I could see where we could have a new record for a company at its IPO valuation, and that Ripple could be that company that makes that new record. And if they had 150 billion worth of XRP, what would the stock have to be worth? What if the stock was worth right around 350 billion, or 3 times what that escrow is? That would put it at a $500 billion valuation, which to me doesn't seem that far-fetched at all for where it could be. So I don't know. I was just playing around with some back of the envelope type calculations, but where we are today is worth 20 times what's on the link to platform. So it's a great buy, a great investment. I think it can only be up from there.
All right, that's her opinions. These aren't mine. I'm just telling you, I thought that was a fascinating clip. I don't know what it's going to be worth. And I also don't, the other part of that is I've always believed that some of that escrow is allocated to other people or other entities. We shall find out, I guess, when the IPO, when we go towards IPO. The link to is in the link to. That's exactly right. The link to is in the top of the description. All right, and then this is something I'd forgotten about. I knew that David Schwartz had tweeted about how Google had earth, Apple is air, Amazon is fire, Ripple's water. But I had forgotten, he said all the elements are taken now, and the name of the freaking movie coming out next in June is called Elemental, with Wade Ripple and Ember Lumen. What are the freaking chances of that? Here's the final results of my poll about whether the Ripple case is over. 65.7% of the people think that this thing's over, and we're just waiting for an announcement. Now, Senator Elizabeth Warren says crypto funds fentanyl trade, and it's time to shut it down. Well, I just got done watching Narcos on Netflix, and so based on that premise, we should have shut cash down a long time ago, because these guys, the freaking Pablo Escobar, had just barrels and barrels of cash buried all over Colombia. And so that US dollars should have been just shut down, because it was funding drugs and weapons and all kinds of things. This is so stupid. These people are so dishonest. They try to create these straw man arguments, and it's all BS, and she doesn't give a rat's behind about people and the people of this country. It's all an agenda. Speaking of, look at this. Look at this. Same guy that she fed the questions to. Think about that for a minute. She's the same person who has never been held accountable for feeding the question and answers to Gary Gensler before he comes to a hearing where Congress is supposed to hold him and his agency accountable. And this woman, who is supposed to be looking out for the American public and holding this guy accountable, instead is giving him the questions behind the scenes before he comes, so that he can't be held accountable. And then I said this, hey, Senator Warren, I'm hearing that the only reason you didn't investigate Bill Hinman and Jay Clayton over the China money ties around the Hinman Ethereum free pass speech is that you wanted them to sue Ripple, which they did. That was Ripple was the sacrificial lamb. That's what I was told. And I said, is this true? Well, we know that Gary Gensler met with Jay Clayton literally, I think, the day before the lawsuit. So did Heath Tarbert, who went on to be general counsel of FTX. He also met the day before the lawsuit. And if you remember, this was Gary Gensler on April 23rd, 2018. I always wondered why he decided to come out and say that Bitcoin and Ethereum were securities. He came out of nowhere and said this. And it was a big feature. It was on the Wall Street Journal. I believe now that we know all these different things, I believe Elizabeth Warren and her people sent him out to say it, because I believe they were hearing that Hinman and the SEC might give Ethereum a free pass, and that they didn't want any of crypto except for Bitcoin to go through the door. This is Elizabeth Warren back, because I'm asking her now. She loves investigations of Republicans. Well, this was a Trump appointee. Why did Senator Warren never investigate Hinman and Clayton? Was Ripple the sacrificial lamb given to her and Gary? This is what she was really hard-nosed when Jay Clayton was about to be confirmed.
And even beyond Sullivan and Cromwell's already long list of Wall Street clients, any reasonably strategic company that wanted to try to avoid an SEC enforcement action could simply hire Sullivan and Cromwell to represent them before the agency, and then you couldn't vote for enforcement against that company. Is that right, Mr. Clayton?
I'm not sure about that, Senator.
Well, you do know the rule that if they are represented by Sullivan and Cromwell in front of the agency, then you're going to be banned from being able to vote against them.
If they are represented by Sullivan and Cromwell in front of the agency, I would not be able to participate.
That was my point.
That doesn't mean that.
So more cases potentially that you cannot participate in, meaning more cases potentially here with a deadlock and no enforcement. I think that's another problem. Often, as we go through this, if President Trump wanted to make sure that the SEC would have a hard time in going after his Wall Street friends, it seems to me you would be the perfect SEC chair. You can't vote to punish some of the biggest names on Wall Street. That means those cases would be at least more likely to end up in deadlock, which means those companies could skate.
So what kept her from going after these guys? And my question is, was it dropping the Ripple lawsuit? Mr. Huber says Consensus is listed as an official contractor of the U.S. government. What in the world does that mean? Let me see. I don't want to make this video too long. Warren Davidson, we're over 50% of the world's invested capital in our capital markets, but when you look at crypto, 70 to 90% of the liquidity is offshore. And then today, while Gensler and Warren are trying to shut it down in the U.S., MiCA, the EU's landmark new crypto regulation, was formally signed into law today. There you go, folks. And then we got this. Jamie Dimon is all about protecting China.
We're here. We're going to support the Chinese people, the Chinese governments. We do business with 1,000 companies here. Half are multinationals coming in, half are local companies. We always have managed our risk that we can handle almost whatever happens around the world. And I am an American patriot. I will do what my government tells me. I'm going to salute like anybody else, but I can tell them what I think. And you can imagine that I've been very clear when I sit down with them what I think and what we think matters. And like I said, a lot of the business community I think would be very helpful.
Thank you. I heard he's running for office. Now, this is a guy that runs a CEO of Crunchfish. Listen to what he's talking about what companies he's found out that are working with central banks.
We're really aware of us. And this goes with central banks, but it particularly also goes with the companies that most closely work with the central banks. That would be e-currency, for instance, that we partner with. They were there. I met with Mitch Cohen again, who was working with the Bank of Jamaica. But there were many others as well, like Ripple, Stellar, Progressoft, and all are now very...
If my son still drew pictures, he would draw you a picture if you still need one. I can't imagine anybody listening to this channel for any period of time needs a picture about Ripple and Stellar drawn for them. Anthony Welfare doesn't. We are joining Unchained Festival for the second year, meeting some of the CEE most innovative and exciting banks, taking place in a medieval fortress in Transylvania. Ripple in Transylvania. That sounds like a title at least. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. Ripple in Transylvania.